Hi, I'm Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and today I am going to show you a very unique way to press your seams open. The best part, in my opinion, is these seams are going to lay flatter than any seam you have ever pressed. All you need, in addition to the fabric, is a pressing marker, an iron, and a 12-inch woolly pressing bar. So let's get started. So for this tutorial, you're going to need an iron, a pressing bar, a pressing marker, and whatever it is that you're going to press those seams open. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my do-it-yourself pressing marker, check out my video that walks you through the process of putting this great tool together. The link is in the description. So in order to test various ways to press our seams open, we're going to be making a 9-patch block, just sewing 9 squares together. And I'm going to press the seams in various ways just to see which method works best. So I've sewn several groups of 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch squares together. None of them are pressed yet, and I did not press any of the fabrics with a pressing solution before I cut them, simply because I don't want to interfere with the results of our test. Normally I would do that before I cut any of my fabrics, but this time this is just the fabric without any pressing solution added. They're just sewn together. So first of all, I'm going to begin with these 3 squares. We're going to press the seams open the traditional way. I'm not going to use any pressing solution. I'm just going to use my iron. I'm going to actually try and pull these seams apart with my chopstick or whatever it is you use. Give it a little finger press, just because this is one of the issues with trying to press our seams open. You get your fingers in the way a lot of times of that iron, and it can get hot. So I'm going to just press it open a little bit. Then I am going to place my iron on the seam. Hold it here. You can hold it, 3, 4, 5 seconds, whatever. And there I have my seam pressed. Now, as you can see, it lays pretty flat. But if we look at it from the side, we can see that it doesn't lay completely flat down onto the fabrics. I mean, it looks good, right? It looks good from our perspective. What I have found, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one, just try and pull this one open. What I have found is it may lay flat now when I'm doing this initial pressing, but when I am trying to put pieces together as if I was making a 9-patch, that's when these little points here pop up. And they can bend over, or they can do all sorts of things as I am sewing them together. So it's important, as you can see how they're kind of popped up here, and I press those well, but they don't always lay just as flat as we can make them lay. So let's try a different method. So that was the first method. We didn't use anything special. Now here's the second set that I'm going to show you. I've sewn together, again, 3 more 3.5 inch squares, which gives me 2 seams that I have to press open. But this time, I'm going to use my pressing marker. So what I'll do here is I'm going to take my pressing marker, I'm going to open those seams once again. And this is where, if you have like a little wooden finger pressing tool, little wooden pressing tool, that works here. Maybe the end of your stiletto has something on it, just to get those seams open. So here it is. Then I'm going to take my marker, my pressing marker, and I'm going to just draw right along that seam, kind of keeping it right in the middle, going right down the seam. And you can feel that the solution has been released on there. Now I'm going to hold it 10 seconds or so, just like we would any other seam, just to make sure that it's set well. So here we have it, and look at how much flatter that seam is. We can see that the seam is just as flat as anything. It looks really good. It was a little cumbersome for me to try and open that seam, as you could see. I'll do it again. Trying to pull it open, press it. It wants to close back up again. That's just what happens when it's laying flat on our pressing surface. So when I open it up, it wants to close. Here I am. I'm going to just draw right along the edge. Now with the pressing marker, if it's not immediately coming out, if you haven't used it for a while, the tip gets dry. So you just push down on it, and that releases the solution down into the tip, and then you make your mark across. Doesn't take a lot. You don't have to put a ton on there in order to achieve a good effect, but you do want to make sure that you've got this pushed down before you place your iron on there, because you don't want one of those little corners to turn up. So once again, we press it for, I don't know, 10 seconds or so, 12 seconds. And there we have that beautiful flat seam. The pressing marker does an amazing job. But what was the difficult part with this? The difficult part was getting those seams to open up so that I could put the iron on there without burning my fingers. So that's the second way that we can do it, using the pressing surface, using our marker. I'm going to sew the third set of squares together, the second set for my 9 patch, using my pressing bar. Now this pressing bar, it's a 12-inch, they come in various sizes. It's called a 12-inch woolly pressing bar, and it's by You and Me Wool. That's the company, EWE, You and Me Wool. And the purpose of this is just to make it easier for the seam to open. Plus we have a wool pressing mat right here. So it's got a dual purpose. So when I lay this on here and I'm placing it down, you know, I've got the 2 seams that are together. I want to make sure that it opens up. And when I press it down here, it's just a little bit easier for me to hold. So when I'm not using any pressing solution on this, so it doesn't lay as flat as it would if it was damp. But I'm going to place my iron on here just as I would on the flat surface. Going to hold it for the same amount of time. Now keep in mind, I don't have any pressing solution on this. And we just want to see if it's easier to hold it on here and to press the seam open with the pressing bar. And if I look, here's my seam with the pressing bar. Now let's compare that to my seam without the pressing bar. So I'm going to go ahead and press again. And we're just testing the pressing bar right now. So I'm going to hold it down the same way. I'm not pressing the other seam, only this one. And we can see that they both lay about the same, but it was easier for me to press using the pressing bar just because of the way that it laid across the bar. So I like that. I think that was easy. Now, this is a very small seam. So when we actually use a longer seam, it makes a little more difference. Honestly, with the pressing bar and with the short seams, I don't know as though it makes a difference whether we use the flat surface or the rounded surface with the pressing bar, but we'll see when it comes to the longer seam. The final seam that I'm going to do, these final 2, I'm going to use my pressing marker, the do-it-yourselfer. I'm going to mark it just like I did with the others, but then I'm going to place it on the pressing bar and see what happens when I use this rather than the flat surface. So once again, my marker. Now I'm going to pull these seams apart, give them a little finger press. But this is where the difference is when I use the pressing solution. And once again, it's not a lot. It's just a little bit. It's like you're marking with a marker. But look at how that lays open. So then when I place it on my pressing bar, it's even easier. You can see how it lays open here. And again, if your tip is a little bit dry, you just push down on it and it releases that solution. So here we have these open already. Once I place it on here, I don't have to keep fiddling with it when I am trying to mark it. Now I'm going to take this again and I'm going to just place it on here for 10 seconds or so. Now what this also says is the bottom of this is a clapper. So you can place the wood on top of the seam, and as it cools, that's what sets the seam also. So it kind of gives you a little bit of extra. Oh, and when we look at this, look at how nicely that lays. That is flat. That seam is very flat. I'm going to do the other one and then we'll compare it to the one that I did without the pressing solution. So we'll hold this again. And I'm going to use the clapper with it too. I think the clapper is helpful. We know that tailors used those when they were pressing seams into clothing. And the whole key is that the fabric cools underneath the wood, and then the wood keeps everything nice and flat. So you want to quickly do that while it's still warm and leave your clapper part of your pressing bar on top of it just until it's cool. And it's cool. So look at this. Oh my goodness, this is so flat. So I've combined the pressing solution and the pressing bar and the clapper, and it looks great. Now let's compare that to the one that I just used pressing, but I didn't use any solution on it. And you can see from these the difference in how these seams lay flat. These are just plastered right down. They're not stuck down because they are pressed. With a solution, they're just flat, and they lay nice and flat here. So for the final test, we're going to sew these 3 sections together. One, I am just going to press open as I would any other seam without any assistance. And the other one, I'm going to use my pressing marker and my woolly pressing bar. Okay, so let's do that. We'll sew those 3 together. And there we have the 3 sections sewn together, and they're not pressed yet. Like I said, I did not use any pressing solution on these fabrics beforehand, but you can see, look at how beautiful these seams are. Pressed open, pressed flat, and these are only the ones that are connecting those 3.5-inch squares. Now, this is the true test, connecting the blocks together, because we want to make sure that everything is perfectly square and that it's flat. It's so much easier to quilt over intersections when those intersections lay flat. So we try everything we can to make that happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press the first seam here without using any pressing solution or the pressing bar. And then I'm going to press this one using the pressing solution, the pressing bar, and the clapper. We're just going to see what the difference is. So we're going to go ahead with this first. Once again, you know, here I am using my fingers to try and open those seams along the way, and they just want to keep closing up. So that's one advantage to using the pressing marker. Now, as I go along, when we press, we press. We don't iron, we press. So I'm going to hold this here. It's not going to hurt your fabric to hold it for 10 seconds or so. And then I'm going to move it down. I want to make sure that my tip kind of keeps everything open. And there I have, oops, a little corner poked up there. Okay, so there I have that seam pressed. You can see, you know, it's not flat. It's not going to be flat because we don't have anything that's holding it down. So now we're going to do this seam, and this one I'm going to use the pressing bar, the clapper, and my pressing marker. So let's bring that over here. There's really not enough of the pressing solution that would soak through the fabric to damage your wool. If you do have it soaking through, you've probably put a little bit too much on there. You need to go a little more quickly when you are marking it. But it doesn't come out that quickly, so it's really not an issue. So I've taken the lid off. I'm going to place this on here. Now, normally I'd turn it sideways and go from left to right or right to left, but for the camera angle, I'm going to do it up and down. So I've opened this up, and I'm going to start, you want to start way at the end, and that's again where you might have to give it a little push if your tip has gotten dry. And then I'm just going to go right along this, and I'm going to paint. Now, right here at the intersection, I like to give that a little push too, because we've got a lot of bulk there. And I just want to make sure that it gets through to the second layer as I am painting this or marking this. This actually was used for paint, acrylic paint, these little tubes. So we're going to go all the way down to the end. And as you can see, look at how nicely that lays open. And it's laying across the pressing bar, so we can easily now take our iron and press along the way. So I'm just going to start here. You want to make sure it's right on the top. You don't want it off to the side because your iron is flat on the bottom. You want to get that flat edge right along here. So again, 10 seconds or so. And then move it. It's not going to hurt that it's over the other end, or you can turn your iron the other direction if you want. And look at this. I wish you could see this in person. I mean, this is so beautifully flat. This edge is so gorgeous. And when I turn it over and give the whole block an additional press, you can see that I don't think I've ever had any blocks lay this flat, ever. The seams are basically just a part of the fabric. You take a look at this and look at this edge, and oh my goodness, you can definitely see the difference. Now I'm going to repair this and use the clapper on this one. So I'm going to take my marker, because remember we didn't put any pressing solution on this one, and I'm going to actually just go ahead and mark along this edge. Now you can't see it from the camera angle, I don't imagine, but you can see that the fabric, it looks wet. I mean, it has darkened up a little bit where the pressing solution goes. So I'm going to have this, it was already laying open, so I didn't really need to place it on here, but I'm going to put it on here to press, just so that I make sure that I get it nice and open, and then I'm going to use the clapper at the end. So here we go. And I'm not sure you need the clapper with the pressing solution, so that's kind of what we're going to test here. Okay, there it is. Let's put the, you can see how flat it is, but I'm going to put the clapper on it just because I want to see if that makes any kind of a difference. Now, one of the things, since we did not press directly on the wool pressing mat, it's cooler. So we don't have to necessarily worry about the clapper having to absorb the heat from the wool pressing mat. It's already cool. This was where we did that pressing. But as we can see, it looks really nice, and I think the clapper made a difference. Can you tell the difference on here from this side to this side? I think it did flatten it out nicely. We don't have any ripples on this side as compared to this side. So let's just give it another press. And then again, we would spray. These would lay flatter here because I would have already sprayed them with pressing solution to begin with. I didn't do that just for the test. But there we have it. This, the pressing marker, this, the woolly pressing bar, plus our iron and our fabric creates the most beautiful seams I have ever made in a quilt block. And I kid you not, I am so impressed with this, and I really wanted to share it with all of you as a quilting tip. I hope that you'll give it a try. All of the links are in the description to everything that we've used here. So if you are interested in purchasing, I don't know the people who made the woolly pressing bar. All I know is that I bought one and I was really happy with it. So the You and Me company, thank you. I'm excited about this purchase. And again, the do-it-yourself part, when it comes to do-it-yourself tricks, the pressing marker, I just thought it was the best thing that I have ever used to press seams. So this really makes me joyful. I'm always trying to be joyful, but this really does the trick for me. But I will always be merry. Thank you so much for watching.